But I think that what running is to me is that it's provided me an opportunity to live my life to the best and full potential I can. And what I mean by that is that I was not being the best version of Tanner 7 years ago. I was not my best version of myself. I had a lot of things in my life that was unhealthy. I was not taking care of myself physically and mentally. I was not doing all of these things. Running has provided me an avenue to live healthier, be more physically fit. It's provided me a lot better mental clarity. It's provided me just an avenue of living life to my full potential. And when I can be my fullest self, I tend to be my happiest self, I tend to be myself that is just most present. And so it's really just provided me my best version.
Hello again and welcome to the Threshold Podcast, the podcast for the everyday runner. My name is Garrett. I'm joined by Tanner, and this is episode 10. And in episode 10, we take a new angle. We're going to talk about something that's not often talked about on other running podcasts, and that is the internal pillars of running. What are those things that happen inside our body, inside our brains? We've identified those things as psychology, identity and ego, culture, and purpose as it pertains to running. So we're going to get into that as our main segment, but really we got Free Trails 2025 Performance of the Year to talk about, and we might just have a debate on headphones versus no headphones. But before we do, man, how are you doing?
We're large. We're living large. We're feeling good. We're doing good. Life is good. And man, we've been having a little bit of fun on the trail here the last few days. Took a couple weeks off following our race, and I'm kind of trying to get back in the rhythm, get in the flow of things, and can start putting a big block together here. But was on Strava, following some of my buddies on there, and saw some people were trying to explore new trails, figure out some new paths to cruise on. And I was like, we got to make a little game out of this. We got to get some people out there adventuring. And, I said, let's just take let's take something. Let's hide it on the trail.
Item.
Yeah. Post it on Strava, take a picture, leave some breadcrumbs, and someone else goes out there and finds it and moves it around. And that way you got people exploring new trails, blazing new paths. And since this week, and it's been about 3 or 4 days in existence now, Wanda the flower is what we called her.
Yeah.
Little pink flower has been making her way around the park reserve, and it's been in the hands of 3 or 4 people already right now. I'd like to say you were part of it, but unfortunately, you went on a scavenger hunt and didn't have any luck, right?
I was crisscrossing applesauce in that trail, running on places that I hadn't been before. But the first time that it was found pretty quickly.
Yeah, I said difficulty level 2 of 10. Peter was out there right away. He sniped that thing up, and then Max was close to follow, but I'm going on a trip here this week, but when I get back home, I think I might just program a real long run and send everyone on a true adventure. I might blaze every trail in that park and make you guys work for it.
You probably know where it's at right now.
I do.
What's the difficulty level on this one? Can I go out there and find that one today?
It's very easy.
It's very easy. Okay, well, it was very easy potentially the first time, and I tried to find it. So the search for Wanda begins at Crowhassan Park near us. And if you want to participate, head out there and try to find her. And then you got to put her in a new place. I will say, I went out yesterday. She is elusive. So good luck.
She is. Tag us on Strava. If you're listening and you don't follow us on Strava, follow us on Strava. Tag us on there. Join in on the fun. And we'll make sure we tag the other people that are joining us, because it's been a little fun to just kind of get ourselves running again.
As soon as I found out there was a game and there was something involved, I was out there trying to find her.
So absolutely. So, well, we got a little bit of running stuff to talk about. There was not a lot that happened in the race world here last week. There was one race in Europe that had some eyes on it, but for the U.S. racing scene, there was a couple small stuff, but nothing of substantial size that I think we want to dive in too deep. But something that did pop up that got on my radar was Free Trail, which is another news forum, ultra running trail forum. They do Trail Runner of the Year, Ultra Runner of the Year, and they also put out Trail Performances of the Year. And they were a little bit behind, but they just put out their 2025 Trail Performances of the Year. And we went and we gave it a quick read, and there was some stuff that kind of stuck out to us, some items that were really interesting. We felt like there were some people that were left off the list, and we're not going to go through the whole thing. I think what we will do is we'll link it in the show notes. They're hyperlinked to go on there and look at their performances, because they've got about 15 male performances, about 15 female performances. But, kind of right off my initial reactions, is a name that stood out to me that they said were performance of the year was Jim Walmsley. We talked about him last week, and he had 3 of those performances. And why I bring that up is we talk a lot about, Jim's drive to Western states and how he was battling some injuries. And now it's got me questioning myself a little bit, because Jim had 3 performances of the year, according to Free Trail here last year. His race at Chianti, the 120K, his World Championships Long Trail 82K, and then his 50K at UTMB. He had 3 great races. He had 3 wins, 3 races in 2025. And I look at that and I'm like, maybe he could have gone and raced the golden ticket race and gone after it, because he didn't have an issue around some of this other stuff. But like we know, we always know about 10% of the true story out there. So
We only know 10% of the true story, and it's so hard if you're truly battling an injury, how you show up and compete for that segment or that time frame. And we know the Jim is on his way to 100% recovery, but maybe he was battling.
yeah, totally. So he had some great performances on there. On the female side of stuff, the one that really stuck out to me was Ann Flowers. Her performance at Leadville. Under 18 hours, she broke the 31-year course record that Ann Trayson holds. Ann Trayson is a legend. So for Ann Flowers to go out there and break that at Leadville was incredible. And, they bring up Leadville, which I'm going to talk about some snubs here in a minute, but really brings up a conversation of why was the male winner of Leadville not on this listing as well, too.
It's a good point.
Yeah, it was something really interesting. And then one other performance that really stood out to me on this list was Ludwig Pomeré, who won the Hardrock 100. But, you think about Hardrock, it's one of the hardest races in the United States, one of the hardest races in the world. But what's crazy is the gentleman was 50 years old.
Yeah.
50 years old. And so people that saying this is a young sport, that's not true. I mean, we're seeing guys in their late 30s, 40s, early 50s, and 50 years old still putting on a world-class performance out there.
Gives a guy like me hope, who really got started in this my 40th year. I mean, there is some runway here.
Well, it's funny you mention that, because me and my wife talk about this quite a bit. And we're like, you look at starting list of races and you look at ages and demographic of the ages, and it's like ultra running is a very time-consuming sport. It's an expensive sport. I mean, when you do these multi-day stuffs, you're having to take a lot of time off of work. And so you see a lot of people later in life that are really going after the ultra run side of these things. And so it's there. Like, don't lose hope, because you can still go and you can put out great performances as you progress in age out there. So
Yeah.
that was something that was really, really important that I wanted to touch on, because I mean, he finished in a time of 22 hours, 21 minutes, 53 seconds. And for those that are familiar with Hardrock, crazy, crazy event. And so one other one, and we were not going to get into this a lot, but I think it's important to mention just Rachel Entrekin's performance at Cocodona.
Oh.
I mean, that's they added that to the list, and that made the list. The list came out on May 11th. Cocodona finished just a few days prior, and they made sure that was on there, because what she did is absolutely incredible. When we talk about some people that were left off the list, I know we mentioned Leadville.
Yeah.
But I think David Roche is one that if Ann Flowers makes the listing, I know that she broke a record of 31 years, but David Roche goes out and he sets a course record at Leadville in 24. He goes out and then breaks his own course record in 25. It's an incredible race, incredible performance.
Yeah. I mean, it's just known as one of the toughest, best trail runners ever. To not be on that list and not even crack the top 10 is could be considered a snub.
It is, and it makes me wonder if they're calling it performance, so I feel like they should really focus on just this specific performance. But it makes me question and wonder if his race at Western States had any type of influence on their decision to add him in there or not, because he blew himself up at Western States. And so I really wonder if they're kind of pulling out like overall yearly performances, but that kind of falls into their T-Roy, U-Roy conversation. So I hope that that's not the case, because if it is, I think that this is a true snub on there, and he should have been included on there. And then one other name that I wanted to bring up is Courtney Walter. She wasn't anywhere on the female side of this listing, and maybe it wasn't like a specific performance or a race, but more of just a conversation of does Courtney's pass with her being so elite, so dominant, like going on and just winning races, and every time she towed the start line, she win a race. And when she had a year that we'll call it quote unquote average, which she is still podium, she's still just
10th at UTMB, led through the half point. One was it Lavaredo?
Yeah.
120K. And it's just like a good performance. Almost you consider a great performance, but not a Courtney performance.
It makes you wonder. It's like, does she sit on a podium or a threshold a little bit higher than everyone else where it's like, you better put on something great for you to be considered on here? And it's like, wow, because I looked at the women's stuff and there were some really great performances, but I see some items on here that she maybe could have found herself jumping in there. So, which brings me to the conversation that I want to ask you. It's like, what are we finding defines trail performance of the year or defines a performance of the year? Because when I look at this list, it looks like they're looking at key races, big name runners, fast races, and it feels like there's a lot of performances that are being left off that should have some highlight.
Yeah, they mentioned the world championships a lot. They mentioned these big races a lot, these big names. And honestly, some of them maybe that had the most media attention. I think what they're missing entirely from this list that could be a blind spot for them is the backyard ultras.
Yeah.
You look at what Phil Gore did at Dead Cow Gully, 119 loops. You look at the fact that he then went to Tennessee in October, ran 114 loops. You look at Meg Eckert's resume within the backyard ultra field last year, and you just wonder, are they missing the opportunity to highlight this big, unique race within trail running?
Yeah. I mean, I think that if you're going to call this ultra running performance of the year, you have to look at everything that is ultra running and not just people that are running 100 miles in 14 hours or 100 miles in 15 hours. I mean, like, those are phenomenal performances. I'm not discrediting those, but there is, the backyard is starting to get some appreciation. It's starting to get love. It's starting to get highlights. It's starting to get just as much focus as, a lot of these fast 100-mile races and these fast European mountainous races. And it's like, I feel like they should be starting to give some love to the Phil Gores, to the Meg Eckerts, to the Oriole, who we talked about a couple weeks ago at Legends, who did 300-yard performances in one calendar year. And so there's a lot of people that I think that should start getting some attention that don't quote unquote run fast, even though Phil Gore runs really fast at 100-mile races, that should probably starting to see some highlights on here.
Well, I think it's settled. I think the Threshold podcast trail running performances of the year for 2026, that needs to come out in 2027.
That would be a good time. And we're not going to just say, hey, you ran a fast 100-milers, because another thing is like the worlds of 200s are blowing up. They're blowing out. And we should, give some love to the 200-mile guys, give some love to the backyard guys, and give some love to the fast guys as well, too. And I think that give some love to the Midwest grassroots races on there. There's a lot of good performances that happen out there that, got to give some love to. I understand what they're trying to do. I understand their purpose and their reasoning behind this. But at the same time, there is people out there that I think that should be highlighted on the list. And you did a great job of bringing up some people there and mentioned that. And the 2026 TTP Trail Runner of the Year performances would be a good one to do there. So
look out for that.
Absolutely. Should we fight about this next one? Should we get into a little bit of a brawl here? Because this is something that popped up on our radar when we were looking at some stuff. And there was an article that popped out. It was like, are headphones ruining trail running? Are headphones ruining running? Are people not able to sit in their own thoughts and their own boredom when they're doing this stuff? And so I was like, we got to talk about this. We got to just have this dialogue, because I know that we have a lot of similarities in regards to when headphones are good and when they're not. But we also have a lot of differences in when they're good and when they're not. So, right off the thing is like, the whole conversation is like death by boredom. Are headphones a true death by boredom, or what are your right off the thoughts reactions when I say headphones or no headphones?
Well, you'll often see me on the trail with headphones. Now, whether there's music or a podcast pumping through those headphones isn't always the case, but I do love my headphones. I'm a huge music fan. For those who know me, know that I'm a huge music fan. I think that there is a terrified by silence wave happening right now. I think people are more and more engaged in constant stimulation than you ever have before. So I think it's a really, really good point. That being said, I love headphones and specifically music on runs for a variety of reasons. I think it can pull me into a good spot, even though I'm not necessarily prepared to run whatever I'm doing at the time. I also think that it just is something that I love to pair with running in particular. So, for me, it's one of those things that are it's it's a preference more than it's not, I will admit. And I think I could probably challenge myself to go out there and leave them behind because if this is about challenging the uncomfortableness, maybe they're a little bit of a safety net for me. That's a really good point.
Yeah, I'm in a lot of agreement with you. When I go out on train runs, on easy runs, when I'm just like, around the house, around the trails, and I'm just getting out the door just to, my typical training block, I got headphones on 99% of the time. I really do. And it's easy runs. I'm listening to a podcast. If I'm doing a workout, I got, typically got some music to get me buzzed up and going. And something I talked about on the podcast and talked outside of the world as well too is that running and we're gonna like it's a really good transition to what we're gonna talk about here today. But it's like I have always said that running is my moving meditation. It provides me peace. It provides me clarity. It provides me opportunity. Like when things are so crazy at home life, work life, whatever it is, when life just gets jumbled up, I can just go out and run and it provides me opportunity to reset. And those are times where I need to say, all right, let me strip the headphones off. Let me take this time to really do what my reasoning and purpose is for being out here. And that's for me to find a state of meditation. And when people think meditation, it's not that, that state of Zen or whatever it is. But for me, it's like, let me just provide that mental reset that I need. And if I'm clogging myself up with other people's thoughts and other music and stuff, I'm not probably getting the true reset that I need out there. And so that's something that, was good for us to have this conversation for me to come, aware of that sometimes I need to be able to say, I don't need to dilute my thoughts right now. I need to be present with my thoughts out there right now. That's when training. I can tell you when I race, man, I don't really ever wear headphones.
I noticed that.
I don't wear them.
And I wore them almost the entire backyard. Now they weren't on for a significant portion of that backyard, but why don't you wear it during a race?
So the backyard, I wore them for 2 hours early in the morning. But I really think about like a superior race. 28 hours of running. I wore my headphones for 4 total hours.
Same with Wild Duluth and me. I didn't wear them pretty much at all.
Yeah, and it's everyone's like, be like the race directors are like, be safe, be aware of your surroundings. I don't necessarily feel like that's the reason I do it. I feel like when I'm racing, I'm like so present with myself and with the race, and I'm like in this completely, totally different zone, different environment, different atmosphere, different mental space where it's like, I don't need anything to like amp me up, get me going, keep me like get distracted because I just spent the last 4, 5, 6 months leading up to this race to where I want to soak in every second that I'm out there. I want to soak in time with the runners, new trail, aid stations. Like when I'm out there, I want to make sure that I am like enjoying this to the fullest. But if I get to a point where it's like I hit a low or it's middle of the night or whatever it is, I might pop them in for an hour or two just to like get the stimulus, bump up everything, get myself going, kind of amp myself up a little bit, and then I'll probably tune back off again because yeah.
You mentioned a really good point though that I was thinking about, and something I've tested is when I'm wearing headphones and my old punk rock music comes back on from my high school days or Lil Wayne comes on, you know what happens? I see my heart rate actually tick up.
Oh, sure.
And so sometimes that can artificially increase heart rate just by having it pounding in your ears and having some loud music that's happening at a fast pace. And I don't always want that. I want the heart rate to stay down if at all possible. The other thing that comes to mind for me is there's people that actually are able to come up with the same clarity with music on neurodivergent people, people with ADHD, people that are okay having a whole bunch of stimulus and still being able to get into Zen is some people that I think of that might really want and need these headphones and need music. But there's also people that probably hide behind it. So I guess the real question is, are you avoiding something? And if that avoidance is maybe being one with your thoughts, having a clear mind, taking in your surroundings by having music, sometimes it's a way to kind of mask ourselves. You often see people on college campuses having headphones on. They're not paying attention to anything around them. People can't come up and approach them and say hello. And I think that takes out a piece, especially during race day, that you could be missing out on.
I agree with you. And I think that something I would like, challenge people to when I think about this is like, go out on your long run and don't wear any headphones. Do you still finish that long run with the same enjoyment and the same purpose and the same feeling that you would while listening to something when you're not distracted the whole time, when you're just out there like really trying to feel the flow of the trail, feel the flow of what's going on, feel your body, feel your thoughts, and just kind of like sit with them and be with them? It'd be an interesting challenge for people that have not done that before, and would be really, really interesting.
Well, we run to put ourselves in uncomfortable positions, and we talk a little bit about that in the main topic, which I love the piece on that. But it's one of those pieces where leave that thing that you normally do all the time during your run, leave it at home and see how that run goes. Now, for folks that love it, like me, there's no telling where you get your meditation from, whether you meditate at home, you stay still and you do yoga and you do all those other things. But I do think it speaks to a piece about putting yourself in an uncomfortable spot or even an unfamiliar spot and just noticing, like you said, just notice.
Yeah, I don't remember who said it too, and it was specifically in regards to the backyard that there was a runner. It might have been Tim who won the Sydney Backyard Ultra, and he made mention of like not wearing headphones for a large section or portion of the race. And someone asked him why that was or why he did that. And he's like, why would I trick my body into thinking that it's not in the pain that's going through? And it wasn't necessarily of like him being like, I want the pain, I want to feel the pain, but it's like you're doing, you're doing hard things for a reason. And why try and subside and numb these certain feelings and certain physical things that you're going through? So we talk about the mentals, but it's also like your mind's strong and powerful to trick your body and like, oh, I'm not doing this. And like the same thing with running. Like I think about it or listen to music. I think about it all the time. I go on these runs and it's so hard and so tedious. I track in music. It's like all of a sudden, boom, like a light switch switches, and I can start going on and feeling these things and running fast and doing all these things and doing a lot harder. But it brought up a really good point to make me think there.
That is a really good point. When was the last time you ran your long run or 4 hours or a big, I mean, I'm sure the backyard is a big chunk of a run that you ran with no headphones.
Yeah, I mean, I think right here is backyard 2 3 hours, and I ran for 27 hours. So I mean, that's basically a whole day of running with nothing. When I ran my winter race up in St. Croix, that was 7 hours, 17 minutes, no music, no nothing. Superior, like I said, that was 24 plus hours and no music, no running. And then there's a lot of the times where I'll go up the door and I'll go run and I'll have music on and I'll be like 5 10 minutes into my run and I'm like, I don't need this right now, and I'll turn them off and I'll just run the rest of my time with no run right there. So sometimes like I'm even catching myself in the act there.
Same, same. I'll get a little ping from above, and I'll be like, oh, I want some silence. I want some prayer, whatever the case may be. And I'll turn them off within 10 minutes of starting the run. That's an interesting concept. Yeah, I think that for me, like Wild Duluth, I wanted to take it in, to your point. I wanted to take in everything around me. And for those Midwest runners, the other piece is if you've never run in the winter without music, I mean, it is just silence. It is beautiful.
I nothing better. Love it. Yeah, love it. Yep. But I was thinking I'm gonna have to start running with like a pair of scissors or something because that sounds really dangerous. As I say that out loud. But you ever like the backyard? Some of the people wear like the corded headphones and stuff. I'm gonna go by and just start snipping. Like, hey, no headphones for you anymore.
I like it. Yeah, you be the snipper.
Yeah. Oh, that's a fun one.
I think we had more commonalities than we did non-commonalities.
I'd agree with you. I mean, I was expecting more of a heated head-on debate there, but like I said, I mean, training, use them. Races, I try and not use them. Try to avoid them.
Yeah.
Makes racing fun when you don't have it, too.
I'm gonna do it next time.
Yeah.
Especially coming up some big races. I'm gonna probably want that awareness and want to take it all in anyway.
Yeah.
And then something for me to consider next year at the backyard. The backyard is so tedious.
Well, I'd say right now the FKT is when we do that here coming up soon. That's 108 miles that you're with me the whole time.
I know that I'm walking it right now today. No headphones.
I'm with you. Okay. Well, done deal. No headphones. 108 miles.
That's a long time.
It'll be fun. What are you thinking?
Yeah, let's jump into the main segment.
Yeah, this will be interesting. It's a little bit of a different conversation we've had in the past, and we were sitting here talking about things, and we're trying to figure out, how we want to take this path moving forward, and what we want to talk about with people. And we're thinking about, what does other podcasts not talk about? What do they not touch on? Because a lot of times you hear about races, stats, analytics, numbers. We touch on all those things, but then at the same time, is anyone really talking about like what you internally deal with when you're going through stuff? The internal battles, the self-doubts, the questionings, the highs, the lows, and everything in between. And we're trying to figure out, how do we define that? I mean, And so you mentioned the 4 pillars.
Yeah.
What were they?
Psychology,
Yeah.
identity, ego,
Mhm.
culture, meaning, and purpose.
Yeah.
And they kind of all fit together. And it's this interesting interaction between our bodies and our minds when we're running. Our bodies are very active when we're running. Our minds are very active when we're running. We often can sense what's happening in our body pretty easily just by doing a quick body scan. Goes back to headphones. It's a little harder to assess what's happening internally when these things are happening.
Yeah.
And so, right off the jump, we talk about psychology. And you as a coach have seen this probably a lot, but you talk about the idea that a lot of DNFs or a lot of maybe subpar performances to that person, we're not judging any performance, but to that person probably happen before the race even starts.
I think so. And when we talk about like people are like, what do you mean DNF happens before the race even starts? And I think of that as like the complete total mindset going into an event, the mindset going into a training block, mindset really going into anything that you're having in life to where if you already have these self-doubts, if you already have these fears, if you already have these like comparison is the thief of joy type of stuff of like, hey, these people are more fit than me, these people are faster than me, these people are going to do all of these things better than I am, then probably if you start manifesting them, they're going to probably come into fruition and they're going to become truthful. And it's like, if I go into race and be like, wow, this is really hard, really difficult, and I'm going to be fighting cutoffs the whole time. Well, you know what? Then we're probably going to already convince ourselves that that's what our day is going to look like right there.
Absolutely. I think about the backyard because that's the most recent. And I went in there not 100%. When are you ever 100% when you go into a race? So don't let your mind trick you. You're never going to be perfectly healthy when you go into one of these races. You might be, but it doesn't happen very often. And then more than my body was ever hurting me, my mind started going a little crazy with these things. Do you belong there? Are you the person to run this race? What if your crew's done all this work to set things up for you and you go out and run 2 loops or 4 loops or 6 loops? How are they going to feel? How are you going to feel? All these things start playing in my mind before the race even starts. And so we had plenty of conversations, and I like to try to be as upfront as possible about those things. And honestly, I would suggest every runner have someone you can talk to about when those thoughts are happening in your mind, especially either before a race or even in training. If you're really struggling to get past an injury, but it almost feels like that injury is being fed by your mind a little bit, I encourage to talk to people.
You mentioned something of do I belong here? And that's like something that a lot of people deal with when they go to ultra running, go to trail running. It's like that imposter syndrome, which I mentioned before. It's like, do I have a sense of belonging at the start line? Because you have so many people and there's like, you see a lot of the same names, you see a lot of the same runners, you start to like notice people, but when you have someone new coming in, you're like, do I belong? Do I fit in here? Because all of these people have all of this fancy gear, all of this fancy stuff, and like we live in a world of we're going to talk about some social media stuff here in a little bit, but it's like we live in a world where you can see what other people's training look like. You can see, these guys did 50 more miles a week and 10,000 more feet of gain and all of these different things, and you're like, wow, maybe I don't belong laying up at the same start line as them. It's like you have to erase that thought process and know that like you're doing this for you. Your journey is different than their journey, and your outcome is going to be different than their outcome. And your sense of satisfaction needs to come from what you want it to look like. But if you go in there comparing yourself to other people and saying like, do I belong? Am I going to finish this? It makes for a really hard race, a really hard day. And then more importantly, it's like you're spending a lot of time, your energy and your effort training, getting yourself there. It's like, find like be happy with what the effort that you put in there for. And it's like, even if it is like 1 day a week, 2 days a week, 3 days a week, it's like be proud of that because you're putting yourself in a position to succeed of what you want it to look like.
Yeah, to adjust your expectations if your expectations are off. If you prepared in a certain way, but you're expecting this totally different outcome, those are probably mismatched expectations to what you put down. But we always talk about 2 things, Tanner and I, when we're preparing for races: prepare like a professional, and then trust the process.
Yeah.
And if you could do those things really well, it'll help take away some of the comparison thoughts that you might have. I also like to recognize those thoughts and then face them head on. Don't just recognize them and say, oh, I'm comparing again. I am supposed to be here. I do belong here. I have prepared like a professional. I trust the process just as much as our brain because it can play tricks on us, go crazy on thoughts that we don't want it to think. We could just kind of force some thoughts in and say them out loud because words are powerful and be able to combat those thoughts. But comparison is the thief of joy. You bring up a great point. Like that is really tricky. And you just don't want to catch yourself comparing. And when you are, you kind of want to stop that, rein in its tracks, and try to reframe it.
And you say adjust expectations early on. And something that I learned very early on is like, coming up here, we're going to talk about our ego, but my ego was so inflated, so ballooned when I first started running because it's like, I thought I could just go out and I could just be competitive, win some races, do some stuff. And man, was I so totally far off there. It was like so totally far off. And it was like, I needed to adjust my expectations. I needed to figure out what works for me. And it was like a psychological side of the thing where I was like thinking that I could compete when I couldn't compete. And it wasn't a sense I couldn't compete, but it was just like I needed to get my mentals right and let my physical abilities follow, because I was almost doing the reverse where I was like, oh, I'm going to let my physical abilities do me there. And then like, I thought I was confident enough to do that stuff where it was like, I needed to like figure out where I was falling in tier and where my physical abilities were. And then just like put the work in after that and let confidence go there because yeah, it was weird because we talk about as confidence trainable as well too, and it's like it's trainable, but like there's a difference between confidence and cockiness, and that was a fine line for me to figure out for a very long time. And now I can sit here and say I'm confident in my abilities, I'm confident in lining up at the start line, I'm confident in my training blocks, but I'm not going into races cocky anymore because a lot can happen.
Yeah, I think too, your confidence comes from lots and lots of reps. You remember when I was saying something, I was commenting on a time that you ran or this or that, or maybe injury credential. You said, dude, I have logged so many hours out on the trail. And that repetition is what builds confidence. Confidence is an internal thing that you built within yourself. I don't know if you can teach it, but you can definitely train it in ways of getting them to go through the reps to get to be confident. Arrogance is always seems to be like, it's always for kind of the outside. It's external factors. Someone needs to reaffirm you for you to stay arrogant, or you need to keep kind of tricking yourself. But I think confidence is built in reps.
Yeah.
Over and over and over.
Yeah. Put in the work and then stuff will happen.
Yeah.
Mine's crazy one, but when we talk about, kind of what got us into running, and why to run and why do people run and why specifically ultra or trail running, I know we're talking all things running here, but you go to these start lines a lot of the times and you look at the people around you and you get to know people and you start to talk with them and you ask that simple question of why do you run? Why are you running? Why are you running things? And you see a lot of people that have addiction, loss, trauma, burnout, like trying to figure out their purpose or identity and all of these different things. And I know that for myself personally, and I've been open about that, is that I've found myself trail running, ultra running because of addiction was controlling my life. And I needed something to, reground me, provide me that purpose, provide me that identity, help kind of control what I needed to do in my life. Because, when I took the addictive tendencies out of my life, a lot of people talk about this hole that sits inside of you, because when you're removing something, you have to fill it with something else. And it's not necessarily like grabbing the next thing, my next addictive tendency and filling it in there, but it's also just getting rid of some negative things in my life and to filling it with positive things in my life. And trail running, ultra running in general really provided that for me. And when I talk with people that are out there, it's like, there's a lot of similarities that I meet people I cross paths with that have similar stories, similar ideas. And it doesn't have to be addiction. It doesn't have to be like these super severe things in your life, but there's a lot of things that people are like, this brought me to this sport. It's an interesting conversation.
We talk about productive versus destructive suffering. Like that feeds into it. Like we can go through a lot of suffering in our lives. Running's always been in the background of my life. And that's what I realized through our conversations and through this podcast. It's always been in the background. I'd always run back to running. Like I'd always come back to running when something hard happened. I never kind of put running at the forefront of my life and said, let me just really approach this as a professional in a craft that I really want to grow instead of like coming back to it. And man, we were supposed to meet for a reason, and our friendship means so much to me. And, I don't say this widely either, but I also struggle with addiction. And it wasn't until very recently that I decided to put running and some productive suffering over destructive suffering and truly make that a core emphasis of my life. And it's hard as hell. You talk about that gap that you feel somewhere that's kind of empty, and that's still a little bit empty for me. And I'm learning as we go, which is a really interesting time to be recording a podcast and sitting here with you. But it's so meaningful to me. And I think that's why people seek out running is it's a productive form of suffering that feels somewhat familiar to them that they were doing in more destructive ways. So
Yeah, I'm with you. It's really, really, you kind of got me on your dogs. Yeah, it is. And it's like you talk about this and you think about, suffering, toughness, and there's literally like a point where toughness stops being in growth and starts becoming self-destruction. Like talking about why I bring that up there is like a lot of people are always like, well, David Goddard's got me into running, like the stay hard mentality, the new hard type of stuff. And it's like, the 4x4x48, run 4 miles every 4 hours, 48 miles. And it's like, you know, that looks cool on paper and that looks cool, like doing that stuff. But man, is that like a form of like, are we just trying to like put ourselves through like really painful things just because we seek out painful things? Or are we trying to do this to have ourselves have some self growth at there at the same time? And some people are like, well, I do this because, it's a form of self growth. It's a challenge. It's something to put me out of my comfort zone. It's, stuff to do. But then you see people that are doing this every week or every weekend. It's like, okay, what do we really get out of it at that time there? But
there's a balance, isn't there? It's because even running could turn into a destructive form of suffering if you do it to the point where you're maybe not listening.
Episode 1, the balanced runner, man. It's a hard thing to find. We can talk about balance for a long time here. No kidding. Man, finding balance in everything that you're doing in life and is a really difficult thing to come by. But, I really just love talking about just a really good group of like-minded people that are out there and people that just, it's no judgment, no anyone questioning what your reasoning is, why you're doing stuff, anything like that. But, when you ask someone their why, there tends to be a lot of similarities in why they're doing this stuff.
Yeah.
Because who wants to go out and just run for days straight and then not be able to walk and do all these crazy things? It's funny.
It is funny. And if running fills you up so much, there's this interesting concept that we talk about with post-race emptiness. And you get done with a race, and I reflected on my races. I never had another race scheduled after a race was run. Now, I've only run a few races.
Yeah.
But each race never had another race on the schedule. And I don't know if I did that intentionally, and I don't know if it worked for me or against me because I have, after each one of my races, felt a period of 2 to 3 weeks that felt very empty, a little bit isolated. You pulled me out of this one pretty quick, Backyard Ultra, with a text, call, how you doing, what's going on? And I'm trying to reflect on that. Why does that happen?
It's a real thing. And I didn't realize it was a real thing until someone actually brought it up to me as well, too. Because, a couple of years ago when I was getting into it, I was running races. And I'd get done with races and I'd be like, it's almost like a sense of like, what was my purpose moving forward? Like, what was my reasoning to keep going? Because I just spent the last couple months leading up to this day, and the day comes and, you know, we can go in a bunch of different directions here, but it's like, did I set expectations on myself and was I not satisfied with those expectations? Was I disappointed in myself? Did I disappoint other people? Was I fearful of the judgment that was going to come around because, you know, people know that you're doing this event, and then are you fearful that people are like not like quote unquote like impressed, but I don't really care what other people think, but like am I fearful of them like talking about it or saying stuff about it? Am I fearful of, and just like I keep saying the word fear because a lot of the times when I have this post-race emptiness, it's like I'm fearful of like not meeting what my full potential was for that race. And it's like, was I judging myself preemptively? Was I having all of these self-doubts again? And that is something that I had to learn where it's just like, I had to just let that go, because the journey that you're having out there is a journey in itself. And you're always having a process of learning and growing and doing these things. And I had to just be like, it was a learning step. It was a building block for me to look forward to the future and build on that. And I didn't want to be empty with that because I was so happy with, training, racing. But then I also needed to be like, stop looking for the next thing and be happy to be present with my family, with my friends, and take that time to like reset. Because if I was able to reset, then I could go back and get my next training block even harder.
I have so many things to touch on with what you just said, but I'll just say it's the journey, not the destination, right? I went into backyard going, it's 100 or bust. It's 100 or failure. when we face post-race emptiness, or you have before, one strategy I'm going to try to implement, not sure if it's going to work. I'm going to set expectations for the training block prior to the race, during the race, and after the race about enjoying the process and really trying to feel and almost not proactively kind of anticipate that post-feeling emptiness. If it happens, it happens, because that's part of the journey as well. Is, and we can't always just drop it, but setting some realistic expectations, I think, will help me in understanding every step, because training for a race is just one piece of it. Running the race is just one piece of it. Post-race is another piece of it. They all fit together. And so I'm really going to try to set some realistic expectations for myself, because when I look back now and I've had some chance to digest, I loved what I did out there. I doubled my distance PR. I met some great guys and gals, and I had a lot of fun. And I trained with one of my best friends during a whole block. And so, what a cool experience. And sometimes we can say these fancy sayings of, journey over destination, but you have to set some expectations and maybe a little bit of rules with yourself on how you're going to work through it.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that it's important to recognize, like, post-race emptiness is a real thing. It is a real
You
thing.
get an adrenaline dump, if nothing else, right?
100%. You're like, oh wow, it's all done. What I was looking forward to is over. You know, I'm not going to sit here and not call out every single runner and say that you don't get excited and it does not consume your thoughts and it does not consume you leading up to the race. If it's not days, weeks, months before, like, you are all in thinking about this. And when it's said, done, and over, your brain's sitting there going, what now? What's next?
It's kind of like a vacation. At the end of a vacation, you're like, oh man, that was really fun. It's all over now.
Right.
But with running, it's even more powerful because of that what now.
Yeah. And so a lot of people are like, I got to jump right back into it. I got to go running. They don't take time to relax, rest, enjoy, reset. So then when they come back and they have the next thing on the calendar, they have their next training prop, they are ready to roll. They are ready to get after it. And that's something that, again, we're going to jump into, but I think that social media has really influenced.
Oh, we're going to talk about my first run in 17 days and how Strava may or may not have influenced how I approached that run.
Well,
and how it maybe should have been a walk in the first place.
let's jump into it, because pillar number 2 that we talked about is identity and ego, right? And when we talk about identity and ego, I think it goes along with a lot of what we just talked about. The maybe judgment, the wanting to succeed, the wanting to, like, have the stats, the data, the analytics, all of this stuff right in front of us, comparing, looking to see what other people are doing. And so we say, has social media changed running? Has it changed the way we run? Has it changed how we run? Has it changed how we go about running?
Before I was even on Strava, my wife and I would joke. I would say, if it's not on my Apple Watch, did it even happen? And so now the question is, if it's not on Strava, did that activity even happen?
No,
it didn't happen. It never happened. Your body didn't gain from it. Your mind didn't gain from it. No, I think that runs are a really personal thing. And they're also to be shared with others. We're going to talk about Run Club coming up here soon.
Yeah.
Finally. And these memories are the things that we should be holding close, but instead we're running faster. I went on a run yesterday, 17 days since my last run. And I'm out there, I run my first, mile in, I don't even know what it was. It doesn't matter. I run it slow. And then I'm like, I want to pick this up. I got to get that. Psychologically, I really had to dig and I had to ask myself some hard questions, because it was like, no, you didn't. No, I didn't. I just ran. I wanted to get that overall time down to a respectable time, especially coming back from that first run. It had to be respectable, right? What's respectable? And who am I trying to impress? My running coach, my friends, my people at the gym? And it wasn't the right choice, because I was pretty sore almost immediately after. And my intentions, it actually went against my intentions. My intentions were run that nice and slow, maybe even walk a little bit. And so I think Strava has had an influence on our culture. I think social media and posting uploads and doing those things. I like to post a video when I run because I am in high spirits. And so that's kind of a fun thing to do. I'm just flying and I'm loving life. And so it's fun to get out there and say hi to people. But am I influenced by Strava? I think the answer for me is yes.
Yeah, I don't think we're necessarily talking like, hey, not like putting stuff out there, being happy with what you're doing, sharing your journey. Like we talk about journey, sharing your journey, putting it out there. I look back at myself, and when I talk about, I talked about just a little bit ago, my ego when we got into running and I thought I could do all these stuff. I look back and I was notorious for posting pictures of my watches after a run.
saying years ago, like posting a picture of Garmin back when I wore Garmin before I wore Apple, and it was just a constant thing. And I'm not bashing that. People do great. I love it. I love to see this stuff. I love to do it. But when I was doing it every day, and people are like, okay, who am I trying to impress at this point now? Like, what am I trying to get out of there? Am I trying to get people to give me a heart, give me a like, and say, wow, man, you're really doing good? What's it matter? What's it matter? I look at the memes and I laugh about the people like at marathons that wear around their medals after, and they're like, "You want to hear about my marathon this weekend at work the next day?" It's like, well, who? It's funny, right?
These all fit together in such interesting ways because we asked earlier about, do I belong here? One of the biggest senses of purpose, we'll get to purpose later, but is I want to belong here. I want to belong here. And Strava is that interesting connection because it allows people to feel community and belonging. But just when does it get too much? If I leave my watch and I'm like, I don't even want to run, or if something goes wrong with my Strava post, or if I say this one, which I've done, forgot to stop the watch. That's why that's why this one's slower, is because I forgot to stop the watch, dude. So when does it go too far, and when do you draw the line?
I think that, if we talk about Strava specifically, I think that you made a great point where it's like there's a lot of positives that come out of it. And one that I talk about is like community. Like there's people that I follow and there's people that follow me that I haven't ever even met in person. And, they're on there, they're in the same area, the same, same races, same areas, same stuff. And like it provides a great opportunity for me to meet similar like-minded people. So then when we do cross paths on the trail, it's like, boom, buddies right there. How's it going? Things are going good, doing good. How's your training block? Let's share some miles sometime soon. And so there's a lot of good that can come out of this as well too. And I think that it's just like, but it's also great too, to where if you do like tracking the numbers, you do like tracking the data, you do like tracking the analytics, it provides a great avenue to like keep all that consolidated to you. You can hide stuff you don't want to share as well too.
I'd throw in a new challenge too, is you can keep it on your Garmin because we do love to track runs, and it's a little bit different. Maybe come off the Strava, don't have it automatically updated on Strava for like 5 to 7 days. And instead of going on Strava and checking and, commenting, and you can comment on other people's runs, do that, but your own runs, just reflect on your run at the end of a run. And then take that 5 block, day, those 5 days in a block or that week block, whatever it is, and then just reflect on all the runs that week. Instead, repurpose your time to do that. It's something to try to maybe break that little cycle of constantly wanting to see who commented on my run.
We can't do that right now because Wanda's out in the woods, but we can do it eventually. I got a fun little one for you. And this is just a straight hypothetical off the cusp. You can tell me it's 0 for all you know. But if we were to give a percentage right now for people that run ultras and they could never post their stuff, their races, their runs again, what percentage of people are we losing from running right now?
Gosh, it's a percentage. It's not 0. I think it would take a little while. So here's what I think about that. I think that people would drop immediately. Okay. They would say, I cannot do that. I don't know exactly what the percentage is. And then when they realize that their passion and love for running is actually stronger than their need to be identified through Strava, they're going to come back. That's my kind of overall synopsis.
And maybe not just Strava, but also just the numbers.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of like getting so soaked into the numbers. And I've seen my all my data, making sure that my numbers are there. It's like, maybe it's not just the social media, but maybe it's also just the addictive tendencies of like the numbers. Of I need the stats. I wake up and what's the endurance score? What's the HRB? What's the this? What's my sleep score? And it's like, if I were to remove all of that from there, would I still have the enjoyment of getting out and going on a run? I could say with certainty to like today, yes, I would. But I don't know if there's a lot of other people. There's probably a lot of other people, but there's probably a small, select, slim few people. It's like, remove all the numbers, remove everything from there. Are you still going to have the enjoyment that you get out of it?
Right. They're not doing it. They're going to something else that they can track and they can make sure that they understand fully. And yeah, I think it would happen. And who knows? I think we got to challenge ourselves, just like the headphones piece. It's all about just kind of, we'll talk a little bit more about adaptability later, but it's being adaptable too. And if you feel like you've been too comfortable or the routine is too close to the vest, switch it up a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, we switch it up in our jobs and in our families, things happen, switch it up. And maybe that's what's so great about running. We talk a little bit about the structure of running, how structured it is and how you can track something. and you can come back to it. And it's that one area of our life that's really structured, and we don't have to change anything if we don't want to, even though everything around us is changing. Well, it's a very good question. I think you're definitely has a percentage of people that are like, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore.
But yeah, well, we touched on identity. We touched a little bit on ego, kind of combined between pillar 1, pillar 2. Is there anything else that really sticks out to you on the identity or ego, or should we jump into the culture side of things?
I think let's jump in.
Yeah.
Dude, ultras are weird. That's what I got out of this. It's like when you talk culture, and we've talked about community a lot in the past, but if we just talk about culture, what we do is really weird.
It's really weird. I mean, you think about all of the different things. We pay money.
Do it this way.
Yeah.
Try and explain it to someone that doesn't know what ultra running is. You walk up, you go to your grandma that doesn't know what you do. How would you explain what we do to her?
Yeah. I train night and day for months and months and months, and I'm sore and I'm tired, and I'm taking time away from some of the things that I love to go out and face all different types of weather, by the way, to pay to run this race or to participate in this event where I'm punished. My body and my mind is going to be punished.
Cry a little bit.
I'll cry a little bit. I'll get more blisters and calluses than you could ever imagine in your life.
You hallucinate and see dragons and elves halfway through.
You'll eat like mashed potatoes or dates or random stuff at a station with people preparing this food for you.
That you've never met, that you've never lying to, and they're like, hey, can I massage your feet and top your toes for you? It's getting weirder.
I mean, but it's true though.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't said anything that's not true right there.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, it's what we do is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And when you just look at like the actual logistics portion of the stuff and like you break down like what we just said right there, it's crazy. And you're doing it with people that do not question it. For other people that run in this world, run in this community, it's not even questioned. They're like, this is totally normal.
We inside what, dirt naps?
No, sleeping on the side of the trail. Did you see the pictures of Courtney from Cocodona?
Yes.
That she posted when she's just laying face down in the dirt?
Yeah.
2 separate times.
Yes.
And everyone that looks at those posts are like, wow, dirt nap. Like, wow, just another day out there running. It's crazy. It's crazy what we do. So just another way to get a bunch of dude, like a trail running family reunion would be the easiest way to do it. You're out for a run, you're having a picnic, you're having a good time out there. And we've mentioned this a lot in the past. Like you meet these people one time and they're family every time you see them again.
Yeah, and that weirdness is what brings people together. And if they can all come around and like it's not that weird to them, what a cool way to bring a community together. You know, there's a lot of other sports in this world and they're pretty normal. I'm sure they have their own weirdness and they have their own things that are kind of inside that community. But running is especially ultra running, is a really weird one that brings people together, but it really does bring people together.
And I think when we talk about, because we want to bring this back to us as the runner, the internal side of these things, it's like we do this and there's no questions asked. Everyone has a little bit of that quote unquote weirdness in them. And I don't want to like, weird is good.
Weird is good.
Like if someone comes in and they're like, what's going on here? Why are people doing this? And like, they're probably the outlier of the group right there. And I'm sure there's some people out there that still run and do that stuff. But for the most part, you've got a lot of people that are just like, they're having a great time out there. They're having fun. They're having like a sense of humor. They're making the most out of their experience. They're making the most out of the event. And they're trying to make sure that they're enjoying the journey.
From every walk of life, too.
Yeah.
That's what's so cool. When we were on the trail and you would be talking to someone that you knew or that you ran with last year, there's lots of people out there, all different walks of life, all different types of people. Now, granted, are they coming from maybe similar backgrounds in certain ways? Of course, but they could be coming from completely different backgrounds. And that weirdness brings everyone together. And I think that's what's so beautiful about the sport. Is that weirdness ever going to change, or is that something that's going to be so unique to ultra running that it will always be here?
Well, I think that it's already starting to change, unfortunately. And I think that we've even seen some people, and there was like a little bit of a trend a while ago that was like, keep ultra running weird. And I saw that post come out of a bunch. It was like, keep ultra running weird, because it was almost like ultra running was starting to get a lot more commercialized. It was a lot more of the, you go to like a marathon and it's very like, line up here, this starting corral here, you go here. And
everyone looks really the same too. I mean, the colors might be the same, different, but everything else looks the same.
It's like, organization is good, but it's almost like overly organized. And I get when you have tens of thousands of people there. I understand that we're like needle in a haystack, really trying to poke at stuff right now. But for ultra running example, it's like you want to be able to like keep this fun, keep it relaxed, keep it free, like have the free spirit of like just kind of going with the flow. You're out there, you're out in the woods, you're out there for days, you're out there for whatever it is, you're meeting people you don't know. It's like just keep it enjoyable, keep it weird. Like I think about Elm Creek again specifically, and I think it was out there this year, but in years prior, they just have like this inflatable taco type of dude, like Cactus Taco guy, Randy the Cactus or something they call it, and it would just move around the course and it would just be all over the place. And it's like, could you imagine at a marathon, they're just a person like inflatable cactus running around like different aid stations as you get around there?
Well,
Fun stuff like that.
yeah, at the core of it, I think humans, they want to be individuals together. They want to be individuals and they want to do it together. There were so many different styles, so many different fun things. I'll relate it back to UFC because I'm a huge UFC fan. When they stopped letting fighters wear their flag and dress the way they want to dress, put their own shorts on, like totally different styles, and they went to a uniform style, it was an uproar. And we see these with all the other sports now. Everyone looks exactly the same, and organization can be a good thing. At the core, individuals don't love it, especially in individual type sports. They don't love it. And I think that's what's so good about trail running so far in the ultra community, but you hate to see it change.
So another question. If someone comes up to you and says, what makes ultra running weird? I've got one that comes to mind, but if you were to say, what's that one thing that sticks out to you that makes ultra running a little weird? Well, I can tell you, for me, while you think about it, it was just a few months ago. What I share on the podcast is I'm laying on the side of the trail, belly down, trying to just put out the biggest part of my life. And the guy walks by, he's like, oh, yeah, totally normal. That's cool. Like,
I agree with you.
bodily function, body throwing up, like, that's just normal. Like, people celebrate. They celebrate that you were able to pass something through you.
Talk about it a lot, too. Talk about it a lot. We're trying to digest stuff. We're trying to get it out. Bodily functions are a hot topic on any ultra trail.
It's a hot topic and it's a normal topic.
Yeah.
People love it.
Yep.
People love it.
Yeah, Larry, that has got to be the top, really.
Yeah. What else on culture? I mean, I know we're not talking community specifically, but just on the culture, is there anything else that always sticks out to you?
I think just protect the weird.
Yeah.
Keep the trail running community, even if it gets bigger, try to keep it small. Try to keep it grassroots. Try to keep it organic. You've been in it for a couple years. I mean, have you seen it change? I mean, you talked about it's changing a little bit, but like from the moment you began to the moment that you're at now, it hasn't changed that much, has it?
No, I don't think so. Not necessarily for myself, at least. I think that we're really talking, transitions over the last 20 years. Really.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But, you just really sparked an idea on me, and something we've been talking about is maybe putting a shirt on or something. And I was thinking about for Superior, getting like a little race shirt or something. And so maybe we'll have to do the Threshold podcast. We're keeping it weird shirt on the back of there that I'll run with on Superior. Get like one of the nice lightweight running shirts and just say, we're keeping it weird. We'll run with that the whole time. Get all the Pacers, the crew one as well too.
I absolutely love it. We're going to have to scrub these episodes for all the good ideas that we had mid-episode.
Would you never did anything with them?
Oh, man. Pillar 4.
Yeah.
A really, really good one. Indeed, well, honestly, I think it ties it all together is meaning and purpose. When you come to running or when you come to anything, what are you searching for? Like, what are you looking for? And why does this find people when they've hit this certain time of their life? What does it mean to you? I mean,
yeah, I think that what it means to me is I'm not going to we could go with the cliche, like it means everything to me, but I necessarily don't think that it means everything to me because there's a lot of other things, my family, that means everything to me. But I think that what running is to me is that it's provided me an opportunity to live my life to the best and full potential I can. And what I mean by that is that I was not being the best version of Tanner 7 years ago.
Yeah.
I was not my best version of myself. I had a lot of things in my life that was unhealthy. I was not taking care of myself physically and mentally. I was not doing all of these things. Running has provided me an avenue to live healthier, be more physically fit. It's provided me a lot better mental clarity. It's providing me just an avenue of living life to my full potential. And when I can be my fullest self, I tend to be my happiest self. I tend to be myself that is just most present. And so it's really just provided me my best version. And that can be a flexible, tangible thing that might be one thing this day and a different the next day. And I know that that's very, like, probably a very broad answer that a lot of people are going to say, I don't know that. Because, I think about Nick Steele, and he's like, it provided me life. Like, his word was, it provided me life.
Powerful.
Yeah, it is. And so it's like, it's just made me be my best version of myself. And so, because it's another one of those things where it's like, if I know that I have something on the calendar, if I know that I have something to train forward to, and I necessarily, it doesn't have to be a race. It could just necessarily just be like, this week is the week that I want to just put in some extra effort. It's like, it provides me some purpose to keep going forward, and that purpose makes me a better person.
Well said.
Yeah.
Meaning and purpose are hard to explain in itself. That's why this is such a tricky topic that people don't touch on, but that resonates with me. For me, it's, like you said, other than God, other than my family, there's nowhere else where I'd rather be. I always find myself, I can be a procrastinator, a little bit of ADHD. I can put things off. I don't put off or run very often because there's nowhere else that I'd rather be, because it's allowed me to kind of trust myself again. When you lose trust with yourself, that's a tough place to be, because when you don't follow through on what you say you're going to do, or when you are trying to either start something or quit something and you can't do it, running is giving me this sense of trust back, just because when I say I'm going to go on a run, or when I say I'm going to knock out a training plan, it was a little rocky at the start, right? But finished strong, and it's starting to develop some new trust with me.
Yeah.
And like you said, the benefits, physical benefits, mental benefits there's just not a lot like it for me personally. So it's been a really great healing activity for me.
There's a couple things that just with what you mentioned, to think about here. And one of those early on is that I've noticed as I've grown up, gotten older, my friendships that I've had in the past have started to dwindle away. I don't have the same friend groups, especially when I was active in addiction. The friends, I had to kind of separate myself from that. But running has provided me a whole new group of friends, a whole new group of people that I would have never found, never met in my life. And the fun thing is that I'll keep hitting on the like-minded people. Like, you can get out there and it's like, you have the same similarities, you have the same thoughts, you have the same tendencies. And it's like, I would have never met these people that are in my life currently right now without running. Another thing that stuck out to me, what you said, is you didn't say it, but it made me think about gratitude and gratefulness. And one thing that I learned early on is I don't have to run, I get to run. And that's something that a lot of people talk about with like anything in life. I don't have to do this, I get to do this. I don't have to do this, I get to do this. And running should not be something that I dread to do. I should not be going out that door and be like, oh, I've got to do this workout today, or, oh, I've got to do this. It's like, it might be hard. It might push me. It might make me be like, this is really going to suck.
There were times of the training block to back up that, for sure.
But at the same time, it's like, I get to do this, and I should be grateful for the opportunity that I'm out there. And that, for me, in essence, is like the meaning of what I'm doing. I'm so grateful for what I'm able to do, put my body through, push myself to, because I know that it provides me my purpose that makes me my better self.
And this is why, guys, we came up with, kind of came up organically. I just said, run for someone who can't today. And that's how we finish every episode. I hold back the fourth wall is like, there are people that want to run so badly and they can't. And we get to. And there's so many times where I thank God for my legs, or I'm just super grateful for my legs. And it's not just my legs, the hips, the whole body, but for my legs in particular, because I know that's one of the vehicles that allows me to do this activity that I love so much. And so, yeah, you bring up a really good point, man. Gratitude to be able to do this, even when it's hard, even when it sucks, even when it's really cold in the wintertime, is something to keep close. Because if you don't keep it close, you could lose the gift that it's giving you. And yeah, I mean, I think it's really, really important.
It's like with anything, you said you keep it close, because the more that you tend to separate yourself away from it and provide excuses and provide opportunities to like find reasons not to do stuff, and just losing that sense of consistency, all of a sudden we're losing what has brought us our best purpose, our best meaning in life right there. So finding that consistency, finding that balance, again, that works for you, because in essence, this is pillar 4 for a reason. It's our last one because it's what makes us who we are. And if we tend to separate ourselves from what made us who we are, all of a sudden that starts to dwindle away and that flame starts to go down a little bit.
I think that probably covers it. We started with the balanced runner in episode 1.
Yeah.
And here we are, episode 10. I just got a big cheeky smile on my face because it's been a whirlwind. It's been a lot of fun, but we end on episode 10 with a little nod to the purpose and the meaning.
Yeah.
Who knows what's in the future from 11 through 20 and 20 on with this podcast. But anything else to say on this one?
No, it was one that I just thought both of us thought was really good to have. Just let's talk about something. Let's rip it off. Let's get down, get a little raw with it. And I think it was a good conversation.
Absolutely. Guys, we're so thankful that you're here. When you're here with us for episode 10, it means you stood around for us on all the other episodes, and we cannot thank you enough. We will have a running group coming soon.
We do. Dates out. We put a date out of the 23rd of May, so it's in 10 days from now.
Okay.
We put a time at 8 a.m. A meeting at the Crow Hassan main trailhead.
Yep.
So if you need it, we'll actually put a link in the show notes for it in the Spotify and the YouTube. If you need an address, we'll put it in there. 8 a.m. start. I'll be there 7:45, a little bit before. We'll go for a run. We're going to do, the main gist of it is going to be an 8-mile loop. But if 8 miles is something that's maybe a little too brash, a little too far, like, right, there's some spur up options where we can do a 3-mile option. We can do a 5-mile option. We can provide some avenues of some shorter distances as well too. So if it's something that you're listening and you're just getting into running or you're not comfortable with some longer stuff yet, still come out. We're going to make it work. We're going to get some distances out there. We're going to be just moving. We're going to be having a good time. We're not going to be setting any paces. We're going to make sure that everyone's sticking around the whole time. And we're just going to have a nice little fun run in the park. We'll hang out for after. We'll share some stories, share some laughs, share some names, get to know everyone. And we'll go from there. So even if it's one person that shows up, one's better than none.
Otherwise, it'll be Tanner and I. I'm okay with that. You know, we're trying to build community because we know that that's a big piece of meaning and purpose for all of you guys. And so I'm super excited. We have been talking about it for a long time, and now we're here. So join us. It's near St. Michael, Rogers, Minnesota area. We'll drop the address in the show notes. And I think that's it. Great episode. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Until next time, run for someone who can today, guys.